Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Our worlds are interconnected, and that's one idea that I pursue in this episode of Intersection Magazine Podcast. I will be dealing with just a section of a show which tackles the world of finance and the world of legislation, or the world in which the law attempts to protect citizens and prevent those in the financial world from overstepping, misusing the system. So welcome to this episode of Intersection Magazine Podcast. Once again, thank you for subscribing and for listening and for interacting with us. I hope you can get as much from it as possible. I'm your host, Nicholas Kianda, based here in Kampala, Uganda, and I'm thrilled to be your host. In the 8th episode of the second season of Billions, the season or the show is going through a crescendo, as you can expect. The man who, in a sense, acts as chief nemesis, is pulling back from some of the challenges he's been facing. His dad is beginning to see that beyond the role of his role in the law, attorney general, that there's a possibility for taking it a step higher to governor. So his dad presents him with some polls that are encouraging about the likelihood of him succeeding if he takes on this role. Now, before all of this, of course, he is under pressure to deliver, to actually exit, or to tap out from his current position because of his refusal to recuse himself from a case. The information about his refusal to recuse himself comes to the attention of people that are higher up than he is through one of his staff members, and so an investigative team is sent down to look into any additional challenges or issues that he may have had with the law, any other attempts to circumvent the law. So the choice of investigator is also interesting. They send in the typical guard dog, so to speak. His well-trimmed man, very thorough, very threatening, very high success rate. But Chuck, I suppose, counters this by creating an alternative way to get to the lady, I suppose, in Washington who wants him out. So what he does is he decides to go for a bigger fish so that by going after this bigger fish, he will gain the attention of the media as well as, of course, Washington or the group that wants him out. So he plays the media very well and makes an announcement that would make the lady who wants him out look bad. In the meantime, the link between the desire or the war between these two men, one representing the law, the other representing the world of finance, is the wife of Chuck's wife, who has been working for Axe Finance for a long period of time. She serves like the role of a counselor, kind of like a coach who gets these intense people in line and helps them deal with challenges they face at this highly productive and highly restrictive environment. So she's really the weak link between the two, because they both have affections for her. One is, of course, married to her. The other considers her a trusted confidant. Now, I think the most important idea I wanted to discuss in this particular episode is the relationship between fathers and sons. But before we get there, you can see Chuck's father constantly getting involved in his son's life, protecting him, guiding him, trying to shape his life. Now, Chuck's father has connections, and he uses these connections to get into a deal that Axe has found out about, where he wants to develop or to buy some land to develop some casinos. This deal is given to him by a long-time friend who has a pizzeria or pizza place. This man has a son who has some knowledge about big players in New York, and so he floats this idea to Axe, who buys in and begins to negotiate. But just before the deal goes through, Chuck's father kind of manages to get other people to steal the deal right from underneath Axe. When he attempts to find out who's behind this, he faces the same answer and realizes this person doesn't want to be identified. So finally he finds this person, makes a connection between Chuck, his longtime nemesis, and his father, and he bursts into this club angry and just livid, literally, just about what they were trying to achieve and why they're trying to stop him. Instead of getting angry with his father, Chuck realized that there's an opportunity to capitalize on Axe's anger. Yeah, when we're angry, we are most likely to make mistakes. And in a sense, Axe has revealed his hand in his anger. But Axe's attack is also interesting, because Axe states really quickly that he got out from under his father's shadow at a very early age. Chuck, on the other hand, has been walking hand in hand with his father, and Axe refers to Chuck as a boy. But there are interesting questions, I think, that we can find here. In different geographies, people in leadership are very concerned about who the father of a certain person is, as a measure of deciding or helping manage relationships that will be used with this person, whether they be business or transactional, whatever form of relationships. So in a sense, the relationship between a person and their father and the further success is connected to that of the son. But Axe is slightly different. He, as he mentioned, manages to get out of the shadow of his father at an early age and pretty much charts a course for himself successfully. And many of us, or many of you, are like that. You don't have the luxury of having successful fathers who can open doors for you, whose names are big enough to let you through all sorts of opportunities and doors, access to powerful people, opportunities as mentioned before, connections, networks. And so in a sense, it's a little bit harder for you. You have had to cut a path for yourselves through the bush of life. Single-handedly, you are recreating, in a sense, a name for yourself, a name which hopefully your son might end up using in the future. So I think this is an interesting subject to discuss about family and relationships and the effect of these relationships on life, on business, on networks, on net worth. Many of you, some of you, have not had the luxury of having successful people around you, which I think has made it harder for you to make it or to succeed. But it's also made you tougher. And this is what, in a sense, makes Axe a more formidable foe. But this also makes him vulnerable. He has something to prove. He has a lot of work to do to create a name for himself, to preserve that name through his sons, and hopefully to go beyond his generation, but to go a lot more farther than this. In the bigger scheme of things, or while tackling the subject of leadership, I think these relations are important. The lawyer or the man in the world of legislation, the man in the world of finance, how are they raised, how are they mentored, who did they follow, how did they get to the level of success that they both have, how do they manage character, what makes them tick, how can they navigate a world that's in a sense against them. Where do they go for counsel, advice? What leadership styles do they choose to employ? How do they raise their own children? What values will they hold dear? All these are important questions. And whether you love him or hate him, Chuck's father is a central figure in his life. Flawed, yes, but I suppose a little bit necessary. You see some of this reflected in a wonderful scene when they have, when Chuck comes to the conclusion that although his father made a mistake going behind his back, this incident at the men's club has helped reveal an underbelly that no one was expecting to see revealed when Axe lost his temper. So Chuck is now depending on a flustered Chuck, or rather on a flustered Axe, to make a mistake which he will capitalize on. And in the scene, they pull out their cigars and begin to puff away. And you see father and son united in mission. Interestingly as well, seeing from the connections that he is able to carve for his son, one of the men who is responsible for helping people gain leadership positions in the state and in the country values loyalty. And in one scene he says, "Your enemies or my enemies," or "I take on the enemies of my friends." And I guess these are the benefits that Chuck is going to find in this union that his father is able to create for him. Chuck is a bit reluctant at the beginning, but he later on embraces the role, even if he has his own flavor, notable in the way he takes on a rival and reveals some biases that he has in his faith and in his own family. So quite a lot to learn in this show, and also I suppose in Succession. Two shows that I think are so important, both in enlightening those who are in the media world and those who are in the finance world and those who are in the world of the law, but also just people who are trying to deal with the subject of wills and families and relationships and fatherhood and motherhood and divorce and money and all those subjects. So that's the episode, just trying to expand on the topic of fatherhood and the role of fathers in the lives of sons, and the challenges sons may face in the absence of fathers, and the need for grit and presence of mind, and the ability to control ourselves in presence or in the midst of anger. Once again, I'm your host, Nicholas Ganda. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And we look forward to giving you more in the next episode.
Intersection Magazine Podcast.